Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Gary Fournier with the Delaware State Police Public Information Office, and on behalf of Colonel Nathaniel McQueen Jr. and the women and men of the Delaware State Police, we would like to extend our heartfelt sympathies to the family of the fallen correction officer and prayers for a full recovery of the employees involved in this tragic incident. We are grateful to all the allied agencies involved in resolving this matter. Joining us here today is Governor John Carney, Secretary Robert Koop from the Delaware Department of Safety and Homeland Security, and Commissioner Perry Phelps from Delaware Department of Correction. At this time, Commissioner Perry Phelps will provide information about the events that occurred throughout the night and this morning.
Good morning. It is with great sadness that I stand before you today and announce the events that happened in the past 24 hours. We lost one of our family members, and it pains my heart to make these statements. I'm going to go over the timeline of events as of yesterday morning. At 23 hours, inmates took 4 hostages in the C building at the James E. Blount Correctional Center. At 14:25 hours, the first hostage released was examined and released from the hospital shortly thereafter. At 2000 hours, the second hostage was released and examined and released from the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Later, 2000 hours, 19 inmates were released out of the C building, making the total of 46 released from there. At 22:52 hours, 3 maintenance workers that were hiding in the basement that the inmates didn't know about were able to work their way from the basement up to the roof, and our tactical teams were able to rescue them and get them out safely. At 05:06 Thursday morning, February 2nd, the Department of Correction, Delaware State Police, and Maryland State Police reached Charlie building and rescued the third hostage, who was alert and well. The fourth hostage, Sergeant Stephen Floyd, was found unresponsive, and at 05:29, Sergeant Stephen Floyd, who was with the department for 16 years, was pronounced dead. And at 05:32, we secured Seagull. And I'll turn it over to Secretary. No, sir.
Good morning. This is a very sad day across the state of Delaware with the loss of one of our brave correctional officers. After a torturous 15-hour ordeal that went through the night, we learned of Sergeant Floyd's demise. My prayers all day yesterday was that this event would end with a different result. But it didn't. So today, all of us mourn the family of Sergeant Floyd. And we also stand today in solidarity with all correctional employees and law enforcement. I have ordered flags across the first state to be flown at half staff. I would like to personally thank the employees of Department of Corrections, the agencies that assisted us, and in particular, the tactical teams for their work in the early hours of today. These brave men and women go to work every day knowing that they may not come home, as do their families. We owe them an incredible debt of gratitude. And we owe that family the support of all of us across our state. I appreciate very much the members of the General Assembly who are standing here beside me. Because while today we mourn, and tomorrow and for a long time going forward, we also have to investigate what happened here, determine the facts, to make sure that it never happens again. The best way that we can honor Sergeant Stephen Floyd is to do this work diligently, together, and expeditiously. We will leave no stone unturned. We will bring every resource that we have to sort out this issue and problem, to make sure that our correctional facilities are secure and that the employees who work there are safe, recognizing that this is very dangerous work. Before turning the podium over to Secretary Koop, I want to again thank Commissioner Phelps, Secretary Koop, the tactical teams, all the employees of Department of Corrections, all the agencies who supported us for the work yesterday and through the night. And I again want to extend my heartfelt sympathies to the Floyd family for the loss of their loved one.
Good morning. I'm Secretary Rob Koop for the Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And I'd like to echo, before I get into my remarks, the sentiments of the Governor and Commissioner Phelps as we honor the dedicated service of Sergeant Stephen Floyd and also the other members of the DOC that were taken hostage yesterday. Before I begin my remarks, I'd also like to recognize the assistance that we received from working with the Delaware Department of Corrections, our Delaware State Police, the Maryland State Police, the Wilmington Police Department, the Delaware Department of Transportation, the FBI, numerous fire and EMS units that were there yesterday to help us through this very challenging ordeal. Commissioner Phelps gave you the timeline from yesterday into this morning, and what I wanted to do is share with you a little bit about what was going on behind the scenes during that time, as the Governor said, over 15 hours. While the hostages were taken. The Delaware DOC, the Department of Correction, the Delaware State Police, and ultimately FBI assisted with hostage negotiations. And those negotiations were being conducted over a correctional officer's radio that was taken from one of the hostages. Some of you became aware that someone was transmitting some of those transmissions, and when that came to our attention, we were able to work with our Division of Communications, and we were able to restrict that radio transmission, so if anyone was following it and wondering why it stopped, that was why. That was a successful effort. So those of you that did point that out to us, thank you. We appreciate that support during that investigation. In addition to the hostage negotiations that were ongoing, we also were preparing a tactical plan for entry, a hostage rescue operation. As you followed the story yesterday, after the first hostage victim was released, there were several hours before the next hostage victim was released. And then after that, it was no hostage staff were released. We did talk about the inmates that came out. At this time, I would not say that they were released. They came out of the building. At this time, we would consider all 120 suspects in this investigation. So when they came out, whether it was voluntary, they were taken into custody. But as the night wore on, we still had 74 inmates in the building, and we still had 2 DOC staff being held as hostage. And that was why the tactical plan was being developed. Through our intelligence development, because of the folks that were coming out of the building, we were able to establish that the entranceways we would be utilizing for the rescue mission were likely blocked by foot lockers that the inmates were able to purchase. This is a metal foot locker. It's about 18 by 24 by 18. And what they had done during negotiations, we had turned on the water as one of the demands, and they filled those foot lockers with water, which created very heavy building blocks. And they used those blocks to build a wall at the entranceways, which was going to block our attempts for entry. So we knew that challenge was there, as well as trying to determine where the hostages were in the building. So that was going on behind the scenes. We worked with our federal partners to try to secure a breaching vehicle. We were unsuccessful. The Maryland State Police did come to our aid and bring a breaching vehicle. But in the interim, our tactical team, not willing to sit and wait, came up with another plan, and that was to use a backhoe, a DOC backhoe, which was operated by a DOC staff. And ultimately, when we made our entry, just after 5 a.m., that is how we attacked the walls that had been built by using that backhoe. So just after 5, when we executed our plan, using the backhoe after the door was open, it knocked it down. The tactical teams entered, and those tactical teams quickly located our female staff member and had her removed safely from the building in less than 2 minutes, and she was quickly loaded in an ambulance to go get checked out. We're happy to say that she was not injured in this ordeal, and I would go as far to say that there were inmates that actually shielded this victim and ensured her safety. However, our search continued to locate Sergeant Floyd, and unfortunately, as the commissioner and the governor have told you, when he was located, he was unresponsive and ultimately was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation continued at that point. The inmates that were still in the building had to be removed from the building safely, taken outside, searched, taken to our infirmary to ensure their health, and then they're secured in a new cell. Right now, what we're going through is processing the crime scene, which is that entire building. That is DOC and the Delaware State Police detectives are going cell by cell collecting evidence. At this time, I'm not able to give you a motive for the attack. I'm not able to give you a description of the weapons other than to know we are aware that some had sharp instruments. But at this time, I have not been presented with what they are, so we're not ready to share that yet either. As far as our other victims, the staff, they are alive. Obviously, this is a very traumatic event, and we will continue to work with them and work with the Attorney General's office and make sure that the appropriate charges are filed and that the perpetrators are brought to justice. At this time, I can take some questions.
How did Sergeant Floyd die, sir?
I'm not at liberty to say that at this time, sir. Sergeant Lloyd will be transported to the medical examiner's office at the Division of Forensic Science, and an autopsy will be conducted. After that, I believe there will be something we could.
Could you spell his name? Could you spell his name?
Right here. Go ahead, sir.
Condolences for your loss, first of all. And
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can you, why did you breach when you did? Did you see, what kind of opening did you see, or was it just a matter of time going on so long that you felt that you, why did you feel you had to do that?
So it was a combination of things, sir. It's not just a period of time. Anytime you're doing the hostage negotiations, our negotiators are in constant contact with us. They're advising us how the negotiations are going. Are they reasonable to demand? What are they asking for? Does it make sense? Are they stalling? Those types of things. Throughout this ordeal, there were many stall tactics. As I said, they used it against us to get the water turned on, which ultimately we thought was going to be for hygiene and for them to hydrate, and used it to create the barricades against us. The stalling was to build those barricades. So once we realized that's what was happening, and we knew we had one hostage, we believed was still alive because there was some communication to verify that. And we had another hostage, Sergeant Boyd, that we had no contact with, we had no updates on, and we were very concerned. So at that point, we made a commitment to enter. The timing of it dealt more with the strategy and also the equipment I talked about.
So are you saying you believe he was dead before the siege?
I did not say that, sir.
Could you spell his name, tell us how old he was, and tell us something about him?
We'll do that with the PIOs afterwards, sir. Okay?
Secretary Cook, Madeline Oaktree, WBFC.
Yes, ma'am.
In 2004, a female counselor was raped at the same prison, and promises were made this would never happen again, and
Yes,
it
ma'am.
happened. So how is this possible, and who's going to be held accountable?
Yes, ma'am. What I would say is what our governor finished his statements with, is that prisons are very dangerous. Our officers train, our officers work together, they're very professional, but every day it's dangerous. There are things to look at. This will be looked at to see if, is there policy, procedures, staffing, all those things would be considered. As far as accountability, we're accountable. Commissioner Phelps and myself. I'm the former commissioner, so we take ownership of this. We own it.
Secretary Julian Stewart, WMDT, how are the prisoners able to take these employees hostage?
That's part of the investigation to see how the takeover occurred, because there are hopefully things in place. In our prison, I mean, there's almost 2,500 men there every day, and this tragic event is terrible. But every day our officers are there, and they run that facility very well, very safely, but it shows how vulnerable we are.
Can you describe the building itself, the C building, is it like a long, narrow hallway that everybody pictures cell blocks to look like?
It is like 3 narrow hallways with a center hub. So the letter would be a T, so to speak. So there's 3 tiers, 1 story, and then the center would be the common area.
Can you talk about the type of inmates that were housed in Building C?
So the inmates that are housed in Building C would be coming through our disciplinary process. They're either on their way up, meaning that they were in minimum security, had infractions, so they were moving into a more secure environment, or they had been in the highest security, maximum, and were on their way down, and those 2 populations are together.
So
Could you
was
talk
prison
about their
understaffed?
demands?
To talk about their demands, I think that's been publicized already. What has been already released in the media directly by the inmates, that is pretty consistent with what was given to us.
The people that actually did
among the hostage takers?
Were there casualties? Say it
Among
again.
the hostage takers? Were any of them inmates who were the hostage takers?
Okay, so there's 120
Right.
inmates, and right now they're all suspects.
Were there any?
And there are no reportable injuries.
Sir, was the prison understaffed?
Is the prison understaffed? We face staffing challenges every day throughout the state. Statewide, we are down on any given day about 90 positions, but we have over 1,700 positions. Critical for us is the staffing of the facility because we have minimum staffing levels. So oftentimes what we have to do is we fill those staffing positions with overtime. That's how we need it. So as far as what the minimum staffing was for that building today, in talking with the commissioner, he believes that staffing was the staffing we have every day on day work. So when we are short-staffed, we compensate with overtime. If we can't fill holes, wardens have authority to cancel visits, cancel programs, and things like that. to avoid any sort of safety issues.
Can you tell us some more? Can you describe, so there were some 80 inmates in there. Can you give us a sense for whether or not this was sort of a smaller core of inmates, or were the larger group of them involved in this? 40 come out?
That's the point of the investigation, sir. It's not uncommon in something like this for a perpetrator to then surrender early to try to cast the suspicion away from them. So at this time, I would say all 120 are suspects until we get to the bottom of the investigation.
Is there any early indication you can share with us about whether you believe this was a emotions sort of rising and it happened spontaneously, or whether it was more of a planned sort of thing?
It's too early in the investigation to answer that, sir.
Can you say if they were in movement? Was there like a meal at that time? Were they moving prisoners at the time of the
I don't know that detail, ma'am.
What about cameras inside the prison there? Are there cameras? Has anyone seen this?
We do have cameras. That'll be part of the investigation.
Have you guys looked at the video yet?
The investigators are on the scene. I'm not sure what they've been able to do.
Can you
yet.
describe the positions of the staff positions of some of the hostages, what their roles were?
So we talked about Sergeant Floyd. There were 2 correctional officers, and the 4th was a female counselor.
Sir,
We appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you for your questions. We will do our very best throughout the day to update you with anything. Again, this is an active and ongoing investigation. We will conduct press releases with any pertinent information that comes out. We thank you again for coming out.
Can you just give us the spelling of his name? Spelling of the deceased name?
Floyd with an L.
Stephen with
Lima.
We'll send you guys, send you guys after the
Simple
event.
question about it.
Stephen with a V or a PH?
We'll send it out on a press release. We'll definitely send it out.
You don't know his name?
I have it right here.
I meant in-
Kind of need it right now.
It's kind of important.